Howdy doody buckaroonies. It is raining in a storming outside, so I figured today would be a great day to film some plugin videos. My dog is actually back on the couch there, completely terrified of life and everything in it because she hates storms, so I guess we're just kind of hanging out here in the studio today. I don't know how many of you have worked with actual analog tape machines before, as this channel does tend to skew a little bit towards the younger side, but for those of you who have not worked with tape, let me tell you, it sounds glorious, but it is kind of a giant pain in the ass. We're really a bit spoiled these days when it comes to production. If you want to call up 5 1176s in your mix or have 10 different optical compressors, you can do that. And you can even get access to plugins that are really nice console modeled EQs or tape simulators or whatever for totally free. I think there's really never been a better time to be a music producer. Of course, this raises the question, are some plugins better than others? And today, I want to find that out. Recently, I was contacted by Tone Empire, who released their new Reelight Pro Tape Simulation plugin. Now, I've heard really good things about Tone Empire before, but I've never used their plugins myself, so I wanted to put Reelight Pro to the test up against some of my other favorite tape plugins. Reelight Pro is available right now if you want to check it out, or any of the other plugins from Tone Empire. You can find the link down in the description below. Tone Empire are also the sponsor of today's video, so big thanks to them for helping to support the channel. With that, let's dive right in and take a look at Reelight Pro and see how it stacks up against the competition. Here we are with Reelight Pro from Tone Empire. So this is the plugin, and let's go over what it is and what it does. Obviously, it is a tape simulator. It comes in at $49 on sale or $99 at full price. We get 6 different tape machines at 2 different speeds each. For the different modes, we have mode A, which is an Ampex ATR 700, B, which is a Studer A812, C, which is a Studer A80, then we've got D, which is a DAWg A2300 SD, E is an AEG Telefunken M20, and F is a Revox B77 Mark II. The plugin overall I think is nice and simple to use. We've got an input and an output. We've got a lock control here, and this is actually really nice. So this is an automatic gain compensation. So when you drive up the input, it compensates the output, which I think is really great. I don't know why more plugins don't do that, because then you're not fooled that it sounds better because it's louder. You're really just only hearing the changes that you're making to the audio. I think really that should be just like a standard thing in every plugin, but I don't know why it's not. Over on the far left, we've got the 2 filters. This is a high pass and a low pass filter. These are pre-tape, so this allows you to filter the incoming audio that's going into the tape machine. These are 12 decibel per octave filters, so it's nice and gentle. I find it's nice to clean up the low end a little bit. If you've got like a really big, beefy bass that just tends to make the tape machine explode, you can clean that up a little bit. And we've got the low pass, which is nice for things like drum overheads or whatnot. If the high end is just getting too kind of crunchy and crispy, you can just back that off a little bit. Over here to the right-hand side, we've got the bias knob. So if you've driven it up and you want even more heat and grit, you can increase the bias for more saturation. We have the compression knob here, which adds more or less tape compression, which isn't like a regular compressor. It's kind of hard to explain. It's just kind of a reactive dynamic compressor. So really cool sounding tape compression. It can be used for a bit of a creative effect. If you really crank it, it starts to make things really big and pumpy. Over here, we've got the crosstalk. Now, on a regular tape machine, all of the channels are right next to each other, and you might have crosstalk where one channel would leak onto the other. Now, this plugin doesn't simulate that. This actually just collapses it more to mono, which is kind of the same thing, but not really, but that's what that knob does. Down in the bottom, we've got oversampling here. We've got up to 8x oversampling. We can save and remove presets. We've got presets here for the different machines and even a couple mixing things like for specific instruments or even the entire mix bus. So I've already tested out Reelight Pro a couple times on a few different tracks, and overall, I really dig the sound of it. But I want to find out how it stacks up against some of my other favorite tape simulations. So these are our contenders today. First up, we have Hornet Tape, which comes in at about $25 US. Then we've got Magnetite from Black Rooster Audio. This was a free plugin. I got it with my Focusrite interface, I think, but normally this is $89. Then we've got Chow Tape, which is absolutely free. So I want to see how that stacks up against Reelight Pro, and to test this, I've got a couple of different examples here today. To test these plugins out here today, I've got a couple royalty-free songs here at the top. I just wanted to test these out as kind of a mastering effect and see what it would sound like on a track that's already been mixed. Then I've got an electronic music example made with just some random royalty-free loops from Music Radar, and then a couple of royalty-free funk loops just to hear what it would sound like on something not so electronic and bass heavy. So I've set all these up to be as similar as I can, and I've gain compensated them as best I can. So we're going to take a listen to a couple of different examples. First up, let's take a listen to this first track without anything going on, and then we're going to bring in the first plugin. Cool. Now, first up, let's try Hornet Tape. Let's try and back off. Let's really push it. Cool, let's try the next one. Next up here, we have Magnetite from Black Rooster Audio. I think let's just zero this out and start bringing it in. Definitely sounds a bit meatier to me. Nice and thick. I like the low end. Let's try speed. So that was Magnetite from Black Rooster Audio. I think that one definitely sounds pretty solid. Let's move on to Chow Tape. Okay, Chow Tape, absolutely free. Let's hear how this stacks up. Cool. Now, let's move on to Reelight Pro. Reelight Pro's got a couple different modes, so I'm just going to try and flick through those as we go here, but let's give this one a listen and see what we've got. Let's try some of the other speeds for that one as well. Ooh. Not much of a difference there. Cool, let's try them out on a different example here. Next up, I want to try something a bit more modern and electronic. So I've got this track, and this is what it sounds like completely clean. So I'm curious how the tape plugins will handle that, because usually low end going into tape can make things just sound really explosive and flubby. So let's see how they stack up. First up, let's get Hornet Tape. All right, Hornet Tape on big bass heavy stuff. Let's go. try a couple different decks. Overall, pretty clean. All right, let's move on. Next up, we're back to Magnetite. Let's get the bias back down and start on red mode. Away we go. Again, pretty solid, and I feel like this one definitely still adds that kind of thickness to things. All right, moving on. So in comes Chow Tape once again. Let's bring this in and see what we've got. I'm gonna reset the drive and the tone here. All right, let's go. All right, and finally, let's move to Reelight Pro. Okay, Reelight Pro, mode A, let's reset all this stuff, and away we go. So that's some oversampling. Not bad at all. Let's try a different example. Okay, next up, I've got a loop of electronic stuff and it sounds like this. So a little bit obnoxious and annoying, but I think the big point here is that bass is very overwhelming, so I'm curious to see how these will handle it. First up, let's try Hornet Tape. That's actually kind of cool. for the most part, that's kind of surprisingly clean. Okay, let's try the next one. Once again, next up is Magnetite from Black Rooster Audio. Let's hear how that sounds. I feel like that one maybe starts to suffer a bit there with that kind of low end. I mean, that's kind of what I would expect, but that one definitely starts to get pretty flubby even without pushing it too hard. Next. Okay, next up, Chow Tape. Let's hear what you got. By comparison, it's almost not fair because we can dial in so many parameters. And that's interesting that we can back off the bass to remove the fact that the bass is going to just distort everything. Or just get stupid with it. Okay. Let's try Reelight Pro. All right, Reelight Pro, away we go. All right, cool. Final example. For my last test here today, I've got this loop. And I wanted to see how they would react to this because we've got a relatively heavy bass, we've got a really big, thick kick drum, but we've also got some pretty sharp transient information, especially with like the hi-hats and the guitars going on. So I'm curious to see how these will handle it. First up, I've got Hornet Tape, but I'm actually going to bring this in on all of these instruments. And this test, I wanted to set up as close as I possibly can in terms of all the settings and the overall tonality. So first up, let's take a listen to Hornet Tape on everything. Turn the bass down a little. Definitely not bad. It feels kind of like it's just saturating everything, though. But definitely not bad. Still pretty clean. Now, let's flip over to Magnetite and see what we've got there. 3, 2, 1, go. Definitely a lot cleaner. Try and bring that bass back. Cool. Not bad. Once again, it adds a nice thickness to things, I find. Now, let's try Chow Tape and see what we've got there. 3, 2, 1, go. not bad. I feel, once again, that's really clean. And this one, I will admit, I did have to dial things in quite a bit just to try and make it sound and react like the others. So that's definitely a point to Chow Tape, that it is very, very flexible. But overall, that one's really, really nice sounding as well. Okay, Reelight Pro, 3, 2, 1, go. I almost have a hard time telling the difference between that and Chow Tape. Let me hear that again. Definitely a bit bassier. So let's try and back off the bass inside of Chow Tape and see if we can get a little closer. Switch back to Reelight Pro and see once again. Definitely not bad. So I guess that kind of wraps it up here. That was a look at the new Reelight Pro and a shootout of it against some of my other favorite tape plugins. Who do you think the winner from this video was? I think for me personally, it's probably between Chow Tape and Reelight Pro. Those are the two that sounded the best, probably followed by Magnetite more for the color aspect of things. But I think Reelight Pro, to my ear, from what I remember of working with tape, sounds a little bit closer, and I think that's probably due to it using impulse responses to create the sound of the tape machines, whereas Chow Tape, I believe, is all just code bits and whatnot. All around, I think I'm pretty impressed with Reelight Pro. I think it sounds really good, and like I said, it sounds pretty close to what I remember tape sounding like, and it seems to react a lot in the same way, and I think that's probably thanks to the compression knob and the bias control, so you can kind of just dial in a little bit extra color or back it off and have it be a bit more transparent. I think some of the models are a bit more interesting than others, but I do like that switching between the modes is kind of a quick way to add almost an Instagram filter effect to the audio. Some of them seem to be a bit extreme, but you know, maybe that might be what you're going for, so that might be nice for making like lo-fi guitar loops or something along those lines. Be sure to let me know who you think the winner from this video was in the comments down below. Big thank you to Tone Empire for sponsoring today's video. This was an interesting little test, and I might do more videos like this in the future. I think this is always kind of interesting to put some stuff back to back and just see what the differences are. It was surprising to see how little difference there was between some, but on others there was a pretty drastic difference in how they sounded, even though they're all trying to be the same plugin, I guess, in a way. Reelight Pro is available now, all around, pretty good plugin. I think gets a thumbs up for me. I might like to see some more fine controls for things. I do appreciate that about Chow Tape and some of the other plugins, you know, getting control of like wow and flutter and things like that. So it might be interesting to see a Reelight Pro expanded edition with a bit more fine-tuning options just to really dial in the sound of the tape overall. But as it stands, pretty solid plugin and a pretty good price point on it. That wraps everything up for this one, so thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And as always, I hope this inspires you to get out there and make something awesome. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys again soon.